let's jump into Thursday Night Football. We got the Eagles. We got the Texans. Same matchup as the World Series,
Yep.
as you might hear. Who do you like in the captain spot?
So yeah, what a great matchup. And I'm gonna have to go with Miles Sanders here because this is a spot where the Eagles probably won't have to throw that much in order to win. And they probably don't need Jalen Hurts running the ball much either. Probably want to just keep him healthy through this game. So I would just say lean on Miles Sanders against the Texans defense that ranks dead last in DVOA against the run. So Sanders would have just a lot of leverage on this slate if he could score a touchdown or two early to kind of cap the passing upside on, like AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. And then certainly, if it is a blowout, we're going to see plenty of Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell in the second half. But I think just in that expected game script, Miles Sanders could have a big game here, and I prefer him in the captain slot.
Yeah, it's the same for me. I mean, I watched that Texans Titans game, and I mean, we already knew the Texans had a bad run defense. I believe they came into that game ranked dead last in DVOA against the run, but my goodness, I have never seen anything like this. Like, it was just, they
Yeah.
knew the Titans were going to run every single snap. And it was just 8-yard gain after 8-yard gain after 8-yard gain. Like, I have never seen anything like it. It was like, it didn't matter if it was Henry, Dontrell Hilliard gets in the game, same thing. Like, they just cannot stop the run. And this is, now you're talking about an Eagles offensive line that's, arguably the best in the league. And, granted, Sanders is no Derrick Henry, but he's still a very good back and one of the, the guys who's always near the top of the league in yards per carry. So, yeah, this is just a smash spot for Sanders. If they watch that tape, I can't see how they don't just feed the ball to Sanders early and often.
Yeah, same thing week before with Josh Jacobs when we both had him ranked number one for
Yeah.
most of the week. And I took the over, I think it was like 17 and a half rush attempts. I think it was on Convince Me as well. And yeah, just watching that game, Jacobs would pop off 15-yard after 15-yard run, which is not good for my prop. I just wanted a couple, 3 to 4 yard carries, but they just cannot stop anybody on the ground. So obviously, this is a terrible matchup for the Texans facing just an elite run team. So yeah, this is just a smash spot for Sanders.
Yeah, they're allowing 5.7 yards per carry to running backs. That is to running
Yeah.
backs. They're dead last in second level yards allowed. And it's just been bad.
And Sanders has touchdown in back-to-back games, which is nice. So he's been finding the end zone a lot more this year, which is nice.
Yeah, they don't really pull him at the goal line. It's just they work in all their backs, so he doesn't get all the touchdowns, but he's already has 5, which is one off his career high of 6 set in 2020. So yeah, he's in a good spot this week. What about for dart throws?
Well, speaking of vulturing Miles Sanders touchdowns, got to go with Boston Scott here. He could certainly get mop-up duty once we're up big. He and Kenny Gainwell, but I think Scott would get the edge in a favorable game script. And again, he's always a threat for a vulture touchdown or two every season. So I like him as a dart throw. And then it's a showdown slate, so we also have to consider Quez Watkins. Although this is probably a slate where he's probably not going to get a long pass or touchdown, just because they're probably going to be up early and not have to throw. But certainly he is a bet for potential one catch for a 7-yard touchdown, which would break the slate. So have to throw in a couple Quez Watkins lineups. And then on the Texans side, I kind of like Philip Dorsett. He only caught one pass for 6 yards last week, despite running out on 89% of Mills dropbacks. This is a brutal matchup, though. So I'm not expecting a big game, but again, he's a dart throw for a reason. So I would have to lean with OJ Howard, possibly as the cheapest bet to potentially score a touchdown. We saw his routes run rate jump up to 34% last week, but this is a murky 2 to 3-way tight end committee. But certainly he's going to be a threat in the red zone if the Texans happen to get there at some point in this game. So he is a sneaky bet for a touchdown. That's why I think he's a good dart throw on a showdown slate like this.
If
again.
Oh man, it's been ugly for the Texans offense. Nothing's really kind of come together the way they hope. But yeah, I agree. I think Boston Scott, especially you're investing in Sanders, you have to kind of invest in Scott as well, because depending how the game script goes, if they get a big and they are 13.5 point favorites, in this spot on the road. They could lean on Boston Scott late against this bad run defense. He could get in the end zone. I like Jordan Akins actually for the Texans. I like Howard as well. But I'll go Akins here because he's been a guy he's had some explosive plays for them. And both Howard and Akins are two of the Texans' top receivers against zone coverage. And, Philadelphia is going to play a lot of zone coverage. And I do think that, the presence of Bradbury and Slay on the outside, especially with your down Nico Collins, who doesn't look like he's going to play, is just going to funnel the ball. They're going to be able to kind of lock up Cooks. It's just going to funnel the ball to other players. So, maybe Dameon Pierce in the running backs get a bunch of underneath throws, but I do think the tight ends will be heavily involved. So I like the Howard call, and I'll go Akins. I think, between those two guys, Brevin Jordan should be involved as well. He's still operating as kind of the top tight end, but for value purposes, I think Akins and Howard are the guys to look at this week.
Yeah, I was gonna make clear, like, Brevin Jordan's the tight end I'm projecting for the most points, which I'm guessing you are as well. So
yeah,
I think he's the logical place. But if we're talking dart throws, that's why we're going with the backup or more of the backup tight ends. But if you want to get I don't know, is Brevin Jordan gonna be chalky? If he's not, then maybe he is the dart throw here. But
I mean, I think there'll be some kind of split rostership between all three of them, but. I have Jordan and Jordan Akins projected for the same amount of yardage. Yeah. I just have Jordan for about a half more catch. So I just, Jordan's yards per catch is lower for me than Akins. And then Howard's is the highest, but I have him for the fewest yards. So
yeah, I think, Jordan's been coming back from an injury. I don't know if he's 100%, but that's kind of why I think his routes run have been low. But you'd think with like Nico Collins out, they might use Brevin Jordan as, more of a wide receiver, sort of like a dollar store Kyle Pitts here. But like Brevin Jordan, definitely want to have some Brevin Jordan lineups as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and then the slot receiver is it'll be Chris Moore, right? Like so he's got the best matchup of the receivers. I should point that out because Vontae Maddox, giving up more catches, more production inside than Slay and Bradbury are on the outside by far. And more 84% of his routes in the slot this year. So he'd be, he might have a better game than Cooks or Dorsett actually.
Yeah, I like that call. He's had a couple decent games this year. That 3 catch for 63-yard game in week 3, and then week 7 he caught a touchdown. So Moore's definitely out of the receivers probably the best dart throw.
And we do have a fullback on the slate. Although I saw him get banged up. I don't know. I think he's good, but Troy Hairston, the second, he caught I think a pass or 2 last week. So he was more involved than he has been most of the year. Let's see. What did he do last week?
2 catches for 7 yards. Probably he doesn't really hit the threshold to be used as a fullback. But I did notice that.
Yeah. I did see him get like banged up at one point. So I don't think he's going to be too heavily involved this week, but Texans are light on skill position talent. So